school for the Pencil Foundation, and I'm going to be talking about what I do and how I got there. So I am a GIS analyst, stands for Geographic Information, either Science or Systems, and basically what I do is I manage spatial data. So our company, Stantec, is a consulting and engineering firm, and our team in particular is mostly doing contracted FEMA work for big flood risk projects. So we provide a data set with flooding sources, elevations, community details, that kind of thing. And then we provide a report and final maps that show flood zones for flood insurance designations. So I won't get too much into that, but I will tell you how I got here today. So I graduated from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville with a geography degree, but that is certainly not how I started. So I actually went in for pre-med. It was something really interesting to me. I loved biology classes in high school, but chemistry was not my strong suit whatsoever. I ended up dreading every single chemistry class that I took, and I found myself more drawn to the humanities like history, and I eventually took an intro to geography class. And at that point I had switched over to an undeclared major and was just generically in the arts and sciences college. And I was trying to give myself a little bit of space to figure out what I actually wanted to do, if not pre-med. So in that class I had a really amazing professor, the kind who really cares about getting to know his students and figuring out more about them and seeing them succeed. So one day after class he asked me a little bit about my major and what I was doing, and I had to tell him that I was undeclared but was really enjoying his class. And he said, you know, like, if you're enjoying this class, maybe I could take you over to the geography building and I could introduce you to some of the faculty and some of the grad students. So we did that, and on that day I happened to be wearing socks and chalks, a little bit nerdy. And he took one look and said, yeah, you're gonna fit in here. So I did. I toured the building and I got to meet several of the other professors, all really cool people, and then some of the grad students. One who was working on a really interesting thesis about the importance of place in the South for people of color, and a place for community. And so I was really interested in the things that people were working on, especially because it was more of a human geography perspective, which was the focus of the intro class that I took. So I, that semester, switched over to geography and then took a look at the course catalog, and GIS classes were required. So I took that intro class and again had a really cool professor who taught me everything I know about mapping. And then took the second class, which was a little bit more computer science based. But within both of those classes I realized that this was a very applicable career choice. You know, very solid, I could see it. Like even as a geography degree, even with a geography degree, I have a terrible sense of direction. I can pull out of an intersection and not remember which way I came from, not know whether to go left or right. It's terrible. But for that reason, I'm very grateful for Google Maps and Apple Maps. And both of those things run on a ton of spatial data. You have the lines that are making up the roads and the streets, and little points for the stoplights and stop signs, and tons of analysis that goes into, you know, calculating speed and distance and direction and all kinds of really cool things. So that's one application that is very obvious in our everyday life. Another would be like the fact that you can get pretty much any food delivered nowadays. That also runs on, you know, mapping software. Being able to calculate best route and all of that. So I kind of early on figured out that this was probably the way I was going to go with my career. So the last semester, when I took my capstone class for geography, we focused a lot more on the professional side of entering the real world after college. And so we did several things like updating our resume, making a portfolio of all the projects that we'd done, and having a lot of visitors come to our class to explain what they did. So we had like urban planners come in, we had people who worked for the government for various different ways. We had a couple of FBI agents come speak to our class, and we had, who is currently my supervisor from Stantec, and she came to talk to us about environmental science. just like I do now, she explained how she works for FEMA and works on these huge flood risk projects that span many years, and I was super interested in it. So after she gave her presentation, after class I went up to her and asked a lot of different questions, and she was able to show me what mapping software she uses and what it looks like for her to work on those things. And I was really excited because I recognized the mapping software. It was the one that I learned how to use in my Intro to GIS class, so I had a little bit of an understanding about what was happening. And she, after the fact, she gave me her contact information, so I sent her a thank you and I kept up with her, and eventually I was able to secure a position as a GIS analyst for Stantec. So I started in February of last year, and unfortunately because of the pandemic I've been working remote since last March, only about 6 weeks into my position, but we will be going in the office next week, so I'm really excited about that. But I'm sure most of you guys will also experience remote work in the future. Through this past year, I think it's been proven that many positions can be successfully done remotely, and that's certainly true for my job as a GIS analyst. So I will show you my work from home setup and give you a little glimpse into what a day might look like for me. So this is my super fancy work from home office setup. I've got my laptop, my second monitor, water as always, mouse, keyboard, headset, and those are my essentials. Got a shelf for any other things and things I've never hung up, don't look at that, and then most importantly my coffee station. And overall, just the biggest piece of advice that I would give you guys as you're going into leaving high school, deciding where you want to go, maybe going to college, anything that you want to do, just keep in mind that you don't have to make that decision right now. You can take classes that interest you, you can change your major as many times as you want to or are able to, you can test the waters and other kinds of things, and especially in the consulting world, there are just so many different projects that our company works on, so if there's anything that interests me, I'm able to, request to work on certain projects or get experience in different ways. So any decisions that you're making are not permanent and lifelong, so don't put too much pressure on those, and certainly have fun.